Hi, everybody. My name is Mr. Anthony, and I'm going to present on language development. First, I would like to start with a little background information on myself. I have been a preschool special ed teacher for 6 years, so I'm giving this presentation based on information that I have gathered through my experiences and through my schooling. So, what is language? It's very important, especially during the early years of your child's life. Language is a form of communication. And some examples of language are body language, so the way their body moving, if they're crying, if they're sad, gestures, if they're pointing, oh, what is that? Oh, I want up, but they're not saying the words, they're just using gestures. Signs, thank you, more, hungry, and verbal. They could tell you a sentence, they could say single words. These are all examples of language. So just because your child is not necessarily speaking does not mean your child is not expressing any language. All babies, they start off with using their body language, and it's gesturing, and then verbal. Everybody can use signs to express their needs and wants. So it's important to understand that everyone is using language. And critical stage of language development is 0 to 5 because so much learning happens and so much development happens. For example, your kids will say their first word when they've never talked before. Some of your kids will start putting whole word sentences together. It is very important to talk about everything that you are doing. So if you're going to the grocery store, talk to them about every step, about what you're going to buy. Or a good example is if you're changing your child, talk to them about each step that you're doing. For example, if you're putting on their diaper, you're going to wipe their butt, and all the steps that go into it. And another critical piece of information is home language is very important. Don't be afraid to teach your child 2 languages at once. So for example, if your home language is Spanish, keep on teaching them Spanish at home. If your home language is something different, teach them while you teach them English, or if they have Spanish and Chinese, teach them both languages. It is okay, and it is very important to teach them, because if you don't teach your child Spanish, the longer they go without it, it's going to be harder to keep the language. So make sure learning 2 languages at once is okay. So right now I'm going to give you guys some strategies that you can use at home or out in the community. So the first one is the OWL method, OWL. So the O stands for observe. So you're going to see what he or she is interested in telling you. So for example, just watch and observe and see what your child's going to do before trying to intervene and assume what they're trying to do. For example, they might be grabbing a stool to go get something, and you might assume that they're trying to get a candy when they might be getting a cup to play with water or to drink water. And the W is wait. So it gives the child a chance to initiate. So wait, and before you interject or say something, just wait. And it's very hard, even as a teacher, I've struggled with this. Wait, sit back. You could count to maybe 10, 20, and just sit there. So observe, wait to see what the child's going to initiate or do, because you might be surprised. They might do something you've never expected. And then the last part is to listen. Listen to what the child is saying so you can respond. So first step, observe, see what they're doing, wait, give them a chance to initiate or tell you, and then listen to what they're saying. This is very important. And as teachers and as parents, sometimes I feel we're too quick to just jump in and just assume what they're going to say, what they're going to do, what they want. Let's take a step back and let's observe, wait, and listen, because you might be surprised at what they're going to tell you, what they're going to do, or who knows. So this is one strategy that you can use, and it's very important. Another strategy is, it goes along with the OWL method, is following the child's lead. See what your child's going to do. For example, this picture is perfect. In this picture, you guys can see the baby has, I think these are blocks, and puts one of the blocks up to the ear and is pretending to call. And then the mom did a great job of grabbing another block and pretending to have a conversation. If she didn't wait, she might have just assumed that the child wanted to build a tower. But she's following the child's lead and saw that he was on the phone, so she picked up a phone to start interacting with the child. This is a great example of following the child's lead. Or if your child's playing outside, before giving them bubbles or something to automatically play with, why don't you see what they're going to do? Maybe they're going to go look and find some bugs, and then maybe they're going to ask to play with the bugs, and you could give them a magnifying glass if you want one. Or maybe they want to play in the dirt, so maybe you guys can play in the dirt. Or maybe they want to build something with the rocks outside. So it's always good to follow their lead and see what they're going to do. And I know I've said this before, but you'll be surprised at what your child's going to want to do. So this one's another very important one, following your child's lead. Put them in charge, because a lot of times when you put your child in charge and you let them take the lead, that is when you get the most language out of a child, because they're doing something that they want. And 2, it's requiring them to be creative. 3, they enjoy this because they chose this themselves. So it's going to elicit a lot of language for them. So next we're going to talk about interpret. So you're going to interpret what they're trying to tell you. So sometimes speech can be unrecognizable. So let's take the time to listen and interpret what they're going to say. Let's just don't assume that that it might be something you've heard before. And then say it as he or she could. And use a sign, picture, or pointing to interpret. So if you're not understanding their speech, have them point to something. And then you could help them with a sentence. You could help them say what they wanted to say. For example, I know sometimes kids struggle and they say, and they're pointing. And so right there, as a teacher, I would think that means up. So then you could interpret what they're saying, up, repeat it for them. So maybe they can repeat it, or if not, they'll eventually understand how to say it. And then let them know what you're going to do. Oh, you want up? Up, please, and then pick them up. So you're helping them understand what it is, and then you added another word to it. Eventually, they're going to understand what you're saying, and by you repeating it to them and interpreting what they're saying, you're giving them language. And this is very important. Honor what they're saying, even if it is unrecognizable. And now another important one is expanding on what the child says. So if your child has 1 word, 2 word responses, 3 word responses, add that extra word in there for them. So for example, if they say hands and they're underneath the sink, you can say wash hands, and eventually they're going to be able to tell you that. And then if a child says 2 words, he says wash hands, you can say you are washing your hands, are washing hands please, are washing hands soap. Now that's 3 words, you just added a 3rd word. And you could even tell them like this. So for example, they say hands, you could say, okay, let's try to use 2 words, wash hands, or wash hands, you're washing your hands. So right there, you're giving them something physical to see, and then you're kind of making it fun and engaging. Or the last example, wash hand soap. Yes, you are washing your hands with soap. Or wash hands, soap, and water. You've added 2 words. And even if they don't necessarily repeat it back, you're expanding on what they're saying and you're giving them that language to repetitively hear. And eventually what's going to happen is they're going to start saying it too because they hear it so often. And it's very important because I know there's many times kids say up, and what does a parent do? Picks them right up. Doesn't say anything, just does it. Our kid will point to their diaper, and then a parent gets them, changes the diaper, doesn't even use a single word with them. When you pick them up, say up, please. You could even have them, you could sign them through it. Or the diaper, talk them through every step. Say diaper, I need to change, or give them the words, say the words with them. It's very important. Use every opportunity as a language opportunity. And this is true for even if they have 5 or 6 words. Make those sentences longer. Make the language more complex. Talk to your child about everything. Language is something that's foundational and fundamental to our living. We use language to communicate with everybody. I'm using language right now to present this topic. We use language everywhere. And as a parent, don't you want to give your kid that language? So let's work together and let's expand. Let's talk to them. Give them every opportunity. And so another important one is asking good questions. This is another way to elicit language. So when you're reading a book, or when you go to the store, or when you're driving home, or when you're playing outside, there's opportunities to ask good questions. The first one that's very simple is yes/no questions. Do you want cookies? Yes or no? And you could even expand it. If you want them to give you a little bit more, say, yes, I want cookies. This is very simple. So the example right here is, do you want to go outside? Yes or no? And then after that, you could give them choices. What cookies do you want? And you could present them with Oreos or Nutter Butter. And then if they point, you could say Oreos. Okay, let's use our words. I want Oreos. So give them a choice. So now you're increasing the difficulty because you're giving them a choice of 2 options. And this one, it says, do you want to play with bikes or Legos? They have a choice. I want to play with bikes. Or if that's a little difficult, bikes. Or you could expand it. Bikes, please. Next, you could ask a closed-ended question. And these ones we try to avoid because a lot of times you're just going to get one word answers or something very simple. So what did you play with outside? Bikes. Bubbles. It's much better to ask open-ended questions because you are going to get a lot of language from your child because they're free to answer whatever they want. So for example, why do you like playing outside? I like to play with bubbles. I see the bird. I saw clouds. Dirt play. Oh, you played with the dirt? So open-ended questions give kids the freedom to answer anyway, and they could even answer it. So why do you like playing outside? They could give you an answer that doesn't even relate, but that is still awesome because they're giving you some form of language. They're speaking to you. It doesn't always have to be right or wrong. They're speaking to you. And then you're there to help them with the correct answer. So if they say, why do you like playing outside? Cookies. And then you could say, oh, you like cookies? Oh, okay. You also enjoyed playing with the bike outside. And so asking very good questions is very important. And here are some things to avoid. Asking too many questions quickly. So for example, you'll say, why did you do this? What did you do? Where did you go? If you're not, and this goes back to our L method, let's observe, wait, and listen. So if you do ask a question, let's wait for them to respond, and then let's listen to what they're going to say. I think sometimes as teachers and as parents, we're just rifling off the questions, and it's not natural. And something more natural is to say comments related to the activity you're doing. Because I know a lot of times kids are playing with Legos. One of the main questions is, oh, what color is that? The kid's going to be like, red. Instead, let's say, oh, I see that you're building a house. Oh, who lives in the house? I see what are you building? And then give them that wait time to respond. And we don't always have to ask like a ton of questions to them. And another one is just like the question it's asking, what's that repeated? What's that? 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 I would maybe ask it once, but I would avoid that and give something specific. Oh, what are you doing, Anthony? What is that? And then pause, count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Give yourself a little time for them to respond back. And then another one is asking questions to which they know the answer. So there's a lot of questions that we know when we ask the kid, they already know the answer. For example, what color is this? If they're really good at their colors, maybe we should avoid it and ask something a little bit different. Instead of what color are the Legos, oh, what can we build? Can we make the letters of our name? Those are more appropriate questions than what color is that, if we already know they know. Or instead, we can use comments. Oh, the Legos are red and green. So these are just some things to avoid. And I know, and as a teacher and as a parent, sometimes it's hard to avoid these, but as long as you're more self-conscious about it, it's going to make it easier to elicit language from your child and more meaningful language. And so right here I have questions. So if you do have any questions, please post them in the comments below, and I will love to answer them and communicate. Remember, I'm no expert on this. I'm constantly learning. These are just some of my tips and advice that I'd like to give you guys. But please ask any questions you have. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to share resources to help you with language. If you need picture cards to communicate with your child, I am willing to help. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. I'm here for you guys. I'm just trying to spread the knowledge. Everything that I talked about is stuff that we do on a consistent basis when we are working in the classroom. And even virtually, we're doing the same thing. So I just want to give parents and everybody else the knowledge that we have as teachers. So once again, thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Have a beautiful day.